So today we're going to talk about Commander archetypes. Are they good? Are they bad? What we personally play. There will be control. There will be Trevor's favorite tribal. Yeah. And then we'll go into the more accursed, stacks and just general chaos. So we're starting off with probably one of my favorite decks currently that I have built, which is Nekuzar. Who does not like drawing cards?
I like drawing cards. I don't like paying prices for every single card I draw.
But you're touching all your cards. Like, come on. I'm helping you surf for nice things. I just, it comes at a cost.
Deck is good. 100% deck is good. But I'm drawing my cards and I'm taking like 9 damage because you got your Shieldred Spark doubled. You got your.
We got one of our favorite boys. We got Kami of the Moon. You hit him with the Kami?
Always.
How can you be mad? You're just risen up your commander homies with this man.
Is that it?
Oh, 100%. Not this man, though. This man's doing war crimes.
That man is doing war crimes. I 100% agree.
So we decided we were not going to go through the entirety of the deck. But if you had to choose some cards that you think are needed in a Nekuzar deck, what is, let's talk about maybe 5 cards. What is the have-to-haves in a Nekuzar deck? And what would you consider this a draw deck even though there's damage involved? Does this categorize in the draw category of archetypes?
It does categorize as maybe not the draw category. He is going to be more of that prison archetype because there is going to be repercussions for everything they're doing. It's making it a little bit harder to play the game because he is dealing damage as you're drawing the cards. I think 5 major cards, and I know you already have one of them in there, is Shieldred. Shieldred's big.
Yeah.
You got the one that we can't read.
That's the best kind. Because I mean, do you really need to know in English what Shieldred does? It's easy. Every time I draw a card, I gain 2 life, and anytime somebody else draws a card, they're losing 2.
What keyword does she have on her?
Doesn't matter. We're not here for keywords. We're not here for keywords, okay? We're here to gain life and have people lose life. And faster than Nekuzar, but with the fun of wheels.
Yep, that's fair. Another card you have in there, it's in your creatures. You also have the same effect in your sorceries. You got the Jace's Archivist. You got the wheels. Very good. Jace's Archivist is going to be super close to Windfall, making everyone do it. So they're going to be taking a bunch of damage, especially if you have Nekuzar and the Shieldred out. They're easily taking anywhere from 6 damage just from the Shieldred for having 3 cards in hand, and the biggest hand size being 3 because your hand's empty. Or they're just taking 1 million damage because you have your Shieldred and Nekuzar out and you had a full grip.
Now, the nice thing about the Jace Archivist, too, is that it's a creature and you're paying 1 blue and then tapping him. So he gets to stay on the field. I don't remember 100% correctly, which is a shame because it's my deck. Windfall is a Sork, correct?
Yeah, it is a sorcery. So you get to use it once. Another one that does the same thing, kind of, is Magus of the Wheel. You also have that in there. That one is a creature that you do get one time. It's still pretty good. Having that discard draw 7 is a very good Wheel of Fortune effect. If you felt like dropping $300, you could throw a Wheel of Fortune in there, but I don't think you're feeling like dropping $300.
I am a cheap hoe. We already have a Shieldred here. I am a cheap hoe. Now, you were talking about creatures because we have them here. Do we address the monster in the room that I have yet to do with this deck when given the opportunity to do so? It should be in here. I believe it is
Is it the Phyrexian Tyranny?
It sure is.
Is it
this the Phyresis?
The Phyresis, putting that on Nekuzar, giving your boy some infect. It's a rough one. I think you also have Grafted Exoskeleton in there.
It is on the sideboard. We're trying to be generous.
Okay, well, you also have the Corrupted Conscious.
No,
Conscious also gives infect.
We don't address that one. We don't talk about it. You don't see it. It's not here.
I'm seeing it. It's right next to that Blood Chief.
No. It's fine. It's fine. Let's go back up. Let's talk. Let's maybe talk about another deck. We don't. don't look at the elephant in the room.
Mm. Mm.
Bellacore.
My favorite. Some good old fashioned tribal decks.
Hell yeah. But
Mm.
for viewers, they don't know. My gamer tag has the word demoness in it. It would be a shame not to make a demon tribal deck. We've been talking about this. So it happened.
It did.
One of my favorite top cards in here, and I finally got to play it, and it's probably, I wouldn't say the most expensive card, but is a expensive card in this deck. Archfiend of Despair. This card is a hoot to play. Nobody wants to play with it on the field.
Card's fucked.
I love it. Look at this man. What's not to love? Your opponents can't gain life. Fuck you, Orzhov. All right? And you're freaking trying to combo, your freaking Sanguine's Bond and your Exquisite Blood. Get out of here.
Monster.
Which is in another draw deck, but that's a different story for a different day. And
Sure.
then at the beginning of each end step, target opponent loses life equal to the life that player lost this turn.
Oh, it's not target. It's each. It's everyone.
Oh, yeah. Correct. You're right.
Yep.
Despair loves company.
Yep. It's wound reflection on a creature. You pay 2 more mana, and they can't gain life, and it's a flyer. It's a one-sided wound reflection. It's great. I'm assuming you have Urza's Incubator in here because demons are expensive.
Let's find out.
You don't have an Urza's Incubator in here.
I think it did hit. No, it did not hit the deck.
I don't think it did. I didn't think you wanted to pick one up.
It's in Angels. That's what? Again, I am a very fair person when it comes to gross commanders, okay? It's fair, but I mean, if we are talking about these kind of things, we have a demonic console in there.
Yep.
Which is nice. But the card that, honestly, I don't know why you said it was a good choice for me to grab. But we grabbed one.
Liliana's Contract is a banger. What do you mean? You got 4 demons out. They all have different names. We're playing a singleton format. You're winning the game once you have 4 of them out. This is ETB, draw 4, you lose 4. So it's card advantage right away, and it's a win con.
Now, I actually really, I do have a lot of tribal decks. Don't get me wrong. I think the demon one is probably the one that is fine-tuned the most, but also, this to me does seem like an unfair win con, but it's one of those, I have a win con out in the event that I cannot do appropriate damage for whatever reason, 100%. Or the game's just not going in my favor. I have a way to complete it so long as I have 4 demons.
Yeah.
Now, have I won with this win con?
No.
No. Have I won via damage? 100%.
Yeah, we'll have to change that. We'll have to build me a mono white deck where I just gain life.
Not necessary. Not necessary. Moving on. 3 doors down.
Your problem child of a deck.
Who doesn't like an Uberg? But also, who doesn't love playing? Do you remember how many doors are in this deck?
Oh, I think you had 19.
27 enchantments, and not all of them are doors. So a good chunk. We have, Duskmourn, Precons, and such like that. This is Duskmourn, the deck.
It is, 100%. You got all the good creatures that Duskmourn brought to us, and then you also have the doors that you wanted. You wanted to have all the doors so that you could be singing some songs while you're casting your spells.
So what would you say is some of your favorite cards in this? Because enchantment winning and enchantment low cost, this is not a new concept for Duskmourn. We're just now getting a commander that says, hey, I hit the battlefield. Once I am no longer sick, you can tap me, unlock some doors. Doors are enchantments. It gets scary fast.
So I personally have a soft spot for Sanctum Weaver and Sithis because I played them in Modern.
Sure. These are good staple cards.
100%. I played Sithis and Sanctum Weaver in an enchantment deck where I would make infinite mana and I would cast an Emrakul because, as we've talked about in other Magic videos, Eldrazi's belong in everything.
No. Incorrect.
Even your Modern deck. But imagine getting infinite mana and you play a 15/15 that can't be countered with Annihilator 6 that lets you take an extra turn. It's fine.
It was not fine. I will say in tune with this deck, and I can't remember quite which enchantment it was. It might be, I believe it is this one. It is this one. Promising Stairs. Considering this deck rotates so heavily around doors, it's not that I'm playing against good people and good decks when I've played this deck, but the minute you hit Promising Stairs and you're just doing nothing but unlocking doors, so
Yep.
long as you have 8 different doors unlocked, you win the game.
Yeah, and it's great.
It is definitely the win con, and it looks like it's pretty cheap right now, which is strange because the doors were so expensive when Duskmorn came out.
They were expensive because it was a new thing. They really wanted them to kick off. They wanted them to do well, and then as people played them in standard, they realized they just weren't great. They were too much to have to worry about. Some people would forget that one door is locked, so that they would have the upside of both, and they paid for the cheaper side. It's just a bigger issue than it needs to be.
It's a
So
gimmick. It's a fun gimmick.
it is a gimmick.
Let's move on to a different deck.
The
Xander?
menace that you chose. You got your vampire for your Edgar.
Mm-hmm.
Got your demon because
Well, we talked
you.
about demons.
Yeah, we got the noble because you married into nobility.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I have a picture of Pat that looks very close to the Xander. I will find it, and we will have to show everybody the glory that is. So I have to play my husband,
100%.
and of
Yeah,
course he's the monster on the field.
you play your husband whenever we play Magic. You trick him so that you can get that win. Why not just throw a 7-mana 6/6 that mills half his library at the same time?
Hell yeah! And I mean, granted, when you sit down in a 4-pod with Xander, everyone is working to not have him hit that field, unless there's something truly scarier. He is the problem.
He's the target. If you don't have the removal spell to get him countered or to get him exiled, you're done because you don't want to actually use a destroy effect because then you're sacking half your things.
And you know what? I don't see a problem with that. I think
Oh,
that's fair.
okay.
I can't have my 7 drop. You can't have half of your battlefield. It seems fair.
Oh, okay. Is that how politics work?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why we have Notion Thief. You get your government issued 1 card because there is wheels being played in this deck. Because I like me some wheels. But again, I get to touch cards. You don't.
Yeah, you got your thief that's stealing all the government issued tax dollars.
Hell yeah. So in a mill deck, what would you say is some staple cards? And we can see whether or not this deck is playing it because this was a budget deck, right? We had an event where we brought, not only did we do draft, but we were supposed to stay under $100. Now, people keep in mind, this was under $100 at the time that it was built. It has fluctuated.
I was gonna
Since
say
then.
I'm seeing
Well,
120.
hold on. He's not getting played right now. And, we were talking about TCG versus Card Kingdom. And maybe, you know what?
100%.
Maybe some of the edge of my cards are real fucked up. All right. And that means their value
Okay,
is much less.
you're right. You played them on the sidewalk. You did the whole.
We bridge
scratching 'em up.
shuffled without
Yep.
sleeves. That's what we were
Perfect.
doing.
Major cards for mill deck, especially since you're in black. Sir Conrad, huge. He's just you're milling half your opponent's deck from the Xander trigger on attack. You're you're probably gonna have your opponents all take some pretty hefty damage.
We like damage. Damage is good.
Damage is pretty all right. Another big one, which I'm seeing it, extort into darkness, extort from darkness. It's right next to feed the swarm.
It's next to
Also very good.
this one.
It's in the sorceries. It's
I was
the
gonna say,
Demir one.
The Demir. Oh, yes. I always see
Very
this and I'm
good.
like, this looks very 40K. I think this was reprinted in 40K, wasn't it?
I'm not 100% sure. I don't think it was.
It reminds me of a Tyrannid.
Oh, it would not be in the Tyrannid deck.
No. Wrong color. What was the colors for the Tyranid deck?
It
Dane
was
would be very upset right now.
That's fine.
A residential
Tyranids aren't
Tyranid.
worried. Tyranids aren't worried about it. Tyranids aren't worth it.
They're just going around and crumping it, not crumping, crunching. They're crunching.
Tyranids like the fat girl at the party. You like her there, but she's eating everything.
No, Tyranids are the rats in like New York, right? They're
Oh.
hungry and they're covered with drugs. And if you do some, that's where you get the freaking gene stealers with their fentanyl walk.
100%.
We'll have to.
You got some rats that fly, which would just be New York's pigeons. So, Tyranids confirmed from New York.
Warhammer hot takes confirmed. We will have to segue into that and get some of our Warhammer junkies in here.
That's gonna be a good one.
That will be a good one. Yeah, so we're milling stuff. I will say, after I played, and I believe it is in this deck, in the creatures, it's not, maybe not. I did at one point, so I learned from getting my ass handed to me several times from your mill deck. I did take a couple cards out of it, and at one point, we did have him in here.
The menace himself, Gyruda. Love that man.
What an asshole.
Thought about building Gyruda again.
Pat wants to build Gyruda.
Maybe I'll build Pat Gyruda for Christmas. He can be the menace.
Billie Eilish? I love Billie Eilish.
Yeah, she's okay. I actually skipped one of her songs in my car on the way home from work.
Not true, girl boss.
She is not in my girl boss playlist, so she doesn't count.
Well, she is in this list of commanders to talk about. Graveyard Recursion.
100%. And who is better occurring your graveyard than the lady from Clan Neltoth herself? She's gonna have it. She's gonna be brewing. She's still upset that her clan kicked her out. So,
and there are people that are upset when Mirren hits the field.
Oh, 100%, because she gives you so much value right away.
And it's one of those, there are ways to pull out of graveyards, right? But if she's on the field, you're guaranteeing it. And wiping somebody's board is only hurting because her experience counters are counting up.
100%.
We will say this is the cheap date, though. It's got Mikaeus, the Black Mikaeus.
Black Daddy himself.
As well as the Walking Ballista, a nice chunky machine gun. And our chunky frog boy to be able to make it all happen if you're not getting those cards appropriately.
The Hulk that is eating too much protein.
He's just bulking, man. He's just bulking.
He sure is. And whenever he dies, he's just a gun dealer.
For sure. This deck no longer exists. It got swapped out for Yigra. However, Mirren is still in that deck and still doing Mirren things.
100%.
So, she's interesting, but on a 1v1, she does not exactly always feel fair.
No, it's fair.
And you know what else isn't fair sometimes? Endless mana. Even
the mono green menace himself.
Pocketing mana, but not only that, but getting fat doing it. I have to say, I tried building another Voltron deck, obviously, with Yigra, which is what Mirren changed into. Doesn't feel as good. This, no-brainer. I love finding a new Magic player, and they go, man, I don't know how to play Magic. Slap down Omnimath and go, you know what? You'll learn. You just pump everything into this man. But also, we got Zavala. We have Zavala in this deck.
The art that is actually good from this artist.
Because we discovered that last night. We ragged on Edgar, and the same artist made the Zavala. This is the Zavala. You would have ragged on it too.
I would have ragged on other reasons.
No.
Not the art.
No. Behind closed doors. Art
isn't great, but it's not the worst I've seen.
But you come from a long lineage of Magic.
100%. I've
Regardless,
seen some pretty cursed art,
this is the Zavala that I am running in my Omnimath.
and it's great.
She is great. I do love this card. What I wish could have had been attached to Omnimath, Trample, would have been great off rip. It is his Achilles
You're asking
heel.
for a lot. You're asking for a lot.
But we do have things in here, and that is probably one of the biggest things when building a Voltron deck, right? Is you need to find some way, flying, trample, something,
You need some sort of evasion
to be able to get through, because it is one man. It's like Atlas, right? One man carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders.
He sure is.
Let's move on to, and this is a new card that just came out. It is one not necessarily in my play style, but I would like to learn this play style. Rev, Mommy.
The control list. Yep.
This is very interesting because black to me is always right. It's sacrificing your own creatures. It's using your life as a resource sort of situation. And this is trying to control while using those resources in like almost a blue manner, right? It wants to control, where blue is usually the control out on the field.
It wants to be able to steal your opponent's stuff, utilize it to where you're having their win cons and you're doing it better than they are, because you are playing 4 different decks at the table.
Because who doesn't like playing everybody's deck on the table?
Yeah. You're playing yours, you're playing theirs, you're just having a great time, and your opponent isn't. And this is the list that I came up with, right?
I'm not sure, because I feel like this is very true to what I would title this list. And we ended up landing on a lot of similar cards.
100%. I think this is my list because I put the Doctor Who card in there, and I know you're not a huge Doctor Who fan or the Universe Beyond sets.
This one?
I think they're fine.
I actually did like this card. I think I ended up putting this one as well. The only difference is I don't think I have this zombie or the zombie assassin, the unstoppable slasher.
Insane.
It is very good. I did not pull one. I was not looking to get one. I've had my moment in the sun with Duskmorn. Not to argue that this isn't a good card. It's just I don't think this hit my list.
100%. I think that this list is going to be a lot of fun once it gets built. I don't like the dollar figure on it, but Rev is also $80 of that.
Is she still?
She's
close.
$70
She's still a good chunk of it. And you know what? She's just hanging out in a binder waiting to be built.
She's ready. She's calling your name.
She is.
We got the list. We're going to have a good time.
You know it's calling your name?
Oops, all spells.
Oops, all spells.
This is inspired by a legacy deck that a buddy of mine plays, and they do very well with it. Oops, all spells. You're winning by milling your whole deck, and you are reanimating your Thassa's Oracle.
Because, who isn't reanimating their Thassa's Oracle?
Yeah, but it's free because you're going like turn 1, play your 1-drop into like turn 3 win.
Is this another flub situation?
No, this is a lot easier to just sit down and be like, okay, what are you doing? Okay, you're good. Once I mill my deck, it will be in one motion, because I'll just play that Balstrad Spy, that second creature in there, which will make me mill until I hit a land. I'm not playing any lands except for the multi-face creatures. So all those flip creatures turn into lands.
Oh, but interesting. That's why you don't have lands in this deck.
Because there's other ways to do it. So like even some of the sorceries and instants.
Yeah.
There are lands on the back.
This is so outside of my wheelhouse. I'm glad that you bring the diversity in here. And you know what? The fact that you mentioned it's from a legacy-inspired deck makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of cards in here I have not seen. However, there's a lot of classic cards in here, too, that I have seen.
Like Bop?
Like Bop. I think we're getting to the next two.
Oh, take the wheel.
So we've talked about a couple of different archetypes, right? What happens if you're that deranged individual that doesn't really want to think about the deck? You're not looking to win. You're just kind of here to fuck with everybody else. Why not for chaos?
Oh,
I have this deck. Granted, the commander has now changed because let's put it this way: I don't really want to play Uno and then need to play the Uno reverse card because sometimes when you're playing this deck and you sit down, you don't realize that the person next to you is maybe playing that Voltron deck or a token deck that gets fat, and then you're by default getting punched. Doesn't feel good while you're doing no damage. However, this has so many beautiful cards in it. And when you pair this with Chaos Chase, well, we call it Chaos Chase. When you pair it with Plains Chase, you made a Plains Chase game of an hour, 2 hours into 7 hours.
yeah.
As we've done this before several times, keep in mind.
I was going to say, I passed out in one of your chairs while you and 5 others. Did you guys do a 4-pod or a 6-pod?
I think we did a 6-pod at one point.
A 6-pod, and I fell asleep in the chair, and I'm over here snoring. I'm dead. And I wake up at like 7, and they're still going. And I fell asleep at like 11.
What is... this Chaos deck, or you at least know a lot of cards because you helped me build this, because this is a lot of older cards. This is cards a lot of people are not playing. What is one of your favorite cards in this deck?
In this one?
Yeah.
Ooh. Can we scroll down a little bit?
Absolutely.
So I like Shared
Fate.
Shared Fate's really good. Hive Mind is amazing. I've played this deck in Legacy. This is a Legacy card. You're going in Legacy, all you're doing is you're playing your Pact and Negation to counter their spell. They get a copy too, which they have to counter something, and they won't have 5 mana to pay for it, so they lose the game on their upkeep. It's real fucked.
And this deck, I built this deck as not a way to win. Have you noticed this lovely little Dovescape, which was somebody's suggestion?
Bird.
This Dovescape not only hurts other individuals, it negates this deck. You just did oops all birds.
Yeah, you're having a blast.
I think one of my favorite things, one night we were playing, I think it was Chaos Chase, or we were just playing with this deck on the field, and everyone realized we need to get rid of this Dovescape, right? We've got an Ian Malcolm player that's also playing a lot of these cards. It was Chaos. There was about 4 times people could get rid of the Dovescape. And we fumbled it. I will also cue on probably the card people hate the most. And this goes back to that 7-hour game. We were playing with a Gruul player, so, high mana cost cards. And a lot of these cards are high mana cost cards. Zer's Weirding.
Oh.
Feels bad. Feels bad when you are playing with someone that is playing low cost spells. They don't get to play.
Yeah.
Period. So, if you would like to be an asshole and make somebody that's maybe flinging spells real fast at low cost, put a Zer. Watch them scream. Will you win? Probably not. But you know what? You're gonna piss that person off, and that's the real winner right there.
Speaking of pissing people off,
the Time Sifter.
Time Sifter's great.
You did not like the Time Sifter.
I still don't like the Time Sifter, but in this deck, it's fine.
Now, I think I know where you're segueing with this.
Yep, I was going to say, speaking of being an asshole.
Talking about pissing people off, talk about being an asshole. It's one thing to control a board with blue, to play the Rev with black and play other people's cards, to play pure chaos. And then there's just, you don't play.
You don't play.
You don't.
This is Derevi Stacks. Everyone loves it. There's nothing wrong with
Nobody loves this. Nobody is playing Magic. You are a monster, especially this deck. To go, hey, everybody, you guys want to sit down for a game of Magic? And everyone's like, yeah, sure. And they know they're going to dedicate the time. And then you play this deck.
If it makes you feel better, I'm looking at how many cards are in this deck. I did not add the lands to this deck.
Yeah. Not necessary. You don't get to play them.
Because I gave up on the Moxfield thing, and I was just like, I don't care enough. Let me look at what lands I have at home. And then I just stopped worrying about the deck.
You are a true monster for building this deck.
I sure am. And guess what? It's in my Moxfield. Maybe I'll go back to it in the future.
Oh, God. But everything in this is important too, because we talked about with Innistrad, right? And I'm learning the stacks and things with flickers and stuff. This is, I mean, the reason why it gets the name stacks is because it's screwing with the stacks, correct?
No, incorrect.
Man,
You're,
educate me, educate the viewers if
you
they're
know,
as dim-witted as I am.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't know what stacks is for, but I know it doesn't deal with the stack. I think it's just stacking up the amount of things that you can't do.
Oh,
Be- because we got Archon of Emeria, we have Eidolon of Rhetoric, we have Canonist. You're only able to play one spell. We're making
we're
it to where
we're also not doing activations of
artifacts.
artifacts.
Your Soul Ring does nothing. We got
That's a
Gaddock
feel
Teeg.
bad.
It sure is. We got Gaddock Teeg in there, so you can't play anything that's a non-creature that's 4 mana or more, or you can't play your X spells that are non-creatures.
And you did build this, and
I did build that.
You went to play Magic with a group of individuals you don't know. You don't know their power levels. You don't know their skills, and you
Nope.
bullied the shit out of Nicole.
Hey, Nicole's my autism best friend. It's fine.
Regardless, this guy, this I think it's not a fun card. It's not a fun commander to play against.
No,
This
it's
is way
haters.
more fair, though. I think, like this is maybe one of the cards you could handle.
I 100% think that Derevi is a more fair commander, because did you actually read what Derevi does?
Mm-mm.
When he ETBs, you get a tap or untap a permanent, or when a creature deals combat damage to a player, you get a tap or untap a permanent.
Yeah, but
It's
I don't
nothing
want you tapping my stuff. I want to tap my stuff.
Well, it's either that or you can't play things.
Also, can we talk about it? Not that it's necessarily a problem anymore. However, at my house, it still would be a problem. This guy's an asshole against
He is.
your expensive mana crypts, your Jeweled Lotus if you're playing them.
100%.
You know, all of those big ticket cards.
Your
Yeah,
monoliths,
well-
your basalt monoliths.
I'm now paying a colorless and a green, and screw you and your expensive cards, okay?
Yep,
And
exactly.
he's $2.72. Take your big priced cards and sit them down.
Yep.
We're not playing with those. If I can't afford them, you can't afford them.
Can I get you to scroll down a little bit on
Absolutely.
the thing? Another great card out of this deck, Stasis.
I love the
Each
art
player
for
skips their
Stasis.
untap step.
I've thought about putting Stasis in decks because I just really love the art. It's really silly to me. So there's a lot of people that don't like it. For some reason, Stasis always like jumps out at me when I'm thumbing through cards. And then you read it and you go, you
This
know,
checks.
maybe we don't need this.
No, 100%. Stasis is actually a legacy deck that used to be played quite a bit, and it's fallen off because people like playing Magic. Fun fact.
Fun fact.
They like playing the game that they spend thousands of dollars on.
So not that we talked about going over this conversation, and granted most of these decks are my decks, but if you were to sit down, let's talk about maybe what order in which you would want to play these, or like which ones are your favorite play style for archetypes, and then what are good archetypes for beginners. So let's start with which ones are your favorites. Granted, I'm going to assume probably your decks, obviously, because you built them, right? These are things that interest you.
I do like my decks. I want to play the Oops All Spell deck in paper. I might, if we get a Christmas bonus, I'll probably pick this deck up. We'll probably have some good times. It'll probably get picked up at Mox, which means more expensive, but
It's nice to have the cards in hand. It's nice to walk in, especially for us, right, that have that resource at our disposal to go in,
100%.
and they have a very large library of cards. It is more expensive, but you're not waiting on, getting cards from 5, 10, 15 different card shops. They're all floating in the mail. You don't know what the quality is going to be. I mean, yes, they are graded, but then you're going through the process of mailing. Did they send it in like, a hard case? Did they send it just in a sleeve? Are they raw dogging it in a piece of paper that's folded up,
100%. So you are paying for the premium, which is going to be worth it. I also enjoy the mock staff. Very good, especially with who we got at the mocks down over here.
Hmm.
So,
So, oops, all spells.
oop,
Do you have another
this is
one? Let's just like top three.
top three. So I'd play Oops. Oops
Hmm.
all spells being number one.
Yep,
As much as I give you shit for it, I'd play your budget Nekusar deck.
my
Budget.
man.
Just because I like drawing cards.
To be
I
fair,
also have a soft spot for that Gene Stealer boy that's in the list.
can we talk about really quick? It's called Budget Nekuzar. Look at the dollar figure down below.
It's budget. It's budget.
100%. When you put this down, when you put this deck down, and anybody asks how much you spent on it, you're like, it's like under $50, I promise. And then you whip out a shield and be like, it was gifted.
It sure was. And you're not gonna like this answer for my number 3 deck for decks I would like to play. Pull up stacks. This is gonna be my
Oh,
number 3
you
option.
could have chose chaos because you
I
know you
sure
get to
could
fuck
have.
around and find out. Instead, you're like, I'm just gonna have people scoop the minute I put my deck down.
I was gonna say, the name of the deck is very fitting for what it is.
Oh, 100%.
You get to sit in the corner and just watch people try to do stuff.
And then what would you say? What would you say is a good archetype for beginners?
For beginners, I'm not a huge tribal fan. I feel like tribal's pretty safe to do for beginners.
Well, and Tribal
I
has so many options too, right? And
100%.
you're usually hitting a lot of the same cards. We had a couple of lists up because I do primarily play Tribal, right? I've got an Angels deck that does Angel things. I've got a Phyrexian deck in Mono White that does Phyrexian things, and it all has the same crap, right? You do like your banner that's boosting up whatever creature you say, or you're playing the lands that are creature specific. I've got House that's making robots and kind of doing that. Well, I mean, he's doing a whole lot more. He's doing dice rolling and attractions and stuff. But regardless, I mean, he is a variant of a tribal in a way. That's not how he should be played, but that's how I play him.
100%. And I did just send you a list. For tribal, you don't have to have just creatures. I just sent you hat tribal.
Hat tribal.
It is every single card has a hat in the art.
Oh, yes.
It is wonderful. It's not what you would expect for a tribal deck, but everyone's wearing a hat or a crown.
This is very good. And there, that we didn't talk about, and it's not really an archetype, but you can have a lot of fun with things. Like we did,
Yep.
there was other ones when we did our budget, right? Somebody did budget Chandra, and it was all Chandras. And that deck was very good. Granted, she's a good planeswalker, but
She is.
I do like those kind of gimmick decks. Which would you say? So the tribal is a good one. Is there what would be like the next one? I know it's subjective to who takes to which colors and what color combinations, and do they thrive better with no mana fixing, or can they handle a lot of colors? What would you say would be the next one?
I don't like playing it a whole lot. I am gonna be an Orzhov player for as long as I've been playing Magic. It's real brain dead. Sorry, Dane, but it's real brain dead. But I feel like that is the safest choice for newer players.
But
Is
you get to
playing some
do.
Orzov aristocrat deck.
I was gonna say
There's
you get to
so
do
many
a
things you
handful
can
of things
do.
in Orzhov, though. To be fair, it is
100%.
it is definitely the brain dead, right? We know you're going to be doing life gain, life steal. You're
Yep.
going to probably be doing some form of spirit token kind of situation. But I mean,
Exactly.
there's open up when we were talking about it right last time with where I'll be doing my Orzhov deck. You can do investigations, and now there's support for adding poison into the mix, right?
Right, exactly.
So I mean, it is very boring, but I think that's because a majority of the Orzhov decks we're seeing is life gain, life steal. Again, if you're not playing an Orzhov deck
Yep.
with an Exquisite Blood and a Sanguine Spawn and going
You ain't doing it
infinite,
right.
you're not doing it. I mean, it's just the fact of the matter. It's not fun. Again, I have that combination in a draw deck. But I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Can we move the view for the hat tribal deck to how the other view is? I gotta show my favorite hat card that's in this deck.
Oko? Oko.
No,
Oko.
no,
I
no, no.
love Oko. I agree. Oko.
I know you love Oko.
What am I looking for? Sorry.
Oh shoot. If you scroll down,
Mhm.
Blurry Bleeble is very good. That is not one of the favorites.
Who
It's
am I
the
looking for?
your mouse is.
Oh. Oh God. Is he
He's
not?
so he's
Is
not legal, but he is wearing a hat, and he is a good little boy.
we would
Um,
maybe zero this at the house. Maybe. He looks
he's
kind
a
of like a mega dweeb, but I feel his glasses energy.
he's a 1/1 that draws you a card and you discard a card whenever you deal damage. But my
Sure.
favorite hat one, it is Crook Crookshank Kobolds.
Oh my God, look at his
Look
hat.
at look at that hat. It's great. Um yeah, he's doing his favorite thing. Maybe in the D&D thing, I'll roll up a kobold and we can have a special guest kobold.
So, out of all of these archetypes as well, so that way we can just wrap up, which archetype would you be, which one would you say is, besides stacks, obviously, which one is the most threatening? Which one are you the happiest to see when you go to sit down and you're playing against that deck?
I feel like the most threatening is gonna be the combo decks. It's gonna be the stuff that is gonna win that turn 3, turn 4.
And those are with people that have really tuned that deck, right? Depending on the
100%.
color palette, you've slammed in as many tutors as humanly possible to get that combo, right?
I mean,
To ensure that you're going to get that.
Not necessarily. I was gonna say that oops all spell list that we were shown earlier. It's very possible to turn 2, turn 3 with that deck.
True.
You do have to have the right hand, but you're able to get those get that Balstrad spy out on turn 2, turn 3, and then win the game from there.
But the thing about and this is a good example for a good one. But again, if let's say you are playing with somebody that doesn't have the bandwidth for this thing, combo decks are that way though, right? If I was to sit down and play a combo deck and I was looking for, and you can cram a lot of different combos into a deck,
100%.
right? If I did want to play it fast, you could, again, depending on how many colors you're playing, you could slam in a shit ton of tutors.
Exactly. You can go balls to the walls. You can get all your tutors to make it to where you're showing everything that you possibly want to, and you're just trying to get to your win con as quick as possible.
And which archetype would you say would you be happy to sit down and see in a pod?
I like the Voltron decks. I also like just the janky. If I came to a pod and someone was doing hat tribal or pointing tribal, I'd be for it. I have pointing tribal in my Mox Shield too.
But I was gonna say you don't feel bad sometimes playing against those draw decks because because we've done it with Nekazar, right? It's the hot rod race. Can you find your pieces or whatever
100%.
first? And that's good for the quick games, the fast ones. See if you can get better. Is your deck, can you draw the appropriate things that your deck needs before someone drains your life, right? You're playing against a clock.
100%. Like my Flubs deck.
I hate the Flubs deck.
I know you hate that Flubs deck. I did some tuning on it. I can win without having 2 colors now. I can win with only green mana or red mana.
So we can kill it. We don't need Flubs. We kill that frog.
No. You still need Brain Freeze to win. You just don't need your blue mana because you're fine.
We talked about the brain freeze. Now I'm like, how do I stop this?
If you want to see more of us, we have other videos on the channel. We got our D&D stream going.
And comment down below which one you like playing. What is your archetype preference? And if you say Orzhov, we know it's you, Dane. We know it's you.
Nobody likes playing Orzhov but you, Dane.
And we'll catch you in the next one.